Every time a live service game drops new content, it walks into a two-way fork. The patch either elevates the game's reputation or becomes ammo for criticism. Because the bigger the title grows, the louder the community becomes, and you cannot escape that. At this point, a new version patch isn't just an update, it's a stress test. What improved and what's coming next. But player often push it too far, turning each patch into a scoreboard of what's missing and what's lacking. And version 2.8 was exactly that moment for Wuthering Waves, because overnight the community split into factions, is trying to prove they're the ones seeing things the right way. And the spark for all this is a single, seemingly harmless topic: Chisa. Her release became a perfect storm for critique and praise, and eventually the conversation shifted from a character to a game as a whole. It's no secret that Wuthering Waves' writing pipeline has been turbulent. The entire 1.x cycle was a rough onboarding, pacing issues, tonal whiplash, and uneven narrative density. But with 2.8, Kuro finally found a stable narrative cadence. Players were genuinely praising how the writing matured, tighter thematic arcs, clearer emotional through lines, even a better internal logic. But when 2.8 dropped, suddenly people were back to square one, asking why does this feel different, or how is this even a main story quest? Some even label it as waifu bait writing. And yes, 2.8 does feel different, lighter than usual, nowhere near the emotional pressure on 2.4, but it's still an important opening for future arc development, especially with the narrative system implemented behind the scenes. For example, where it actually shines is in its tactical execution. You can literally see the pipeline upgrades, Black Shore's involvement, seamless gravity transition, time-sensitive dialogue triggers, and fully choreographed cutscene tier animation appearing in normal interaction. These are not small tweaks, it's a signal that developers are iterating on their narrative delivery system, not just the script. The meltdown did not happen because the story was bad. It happened because the story thematic weight did not match people's expectation for the main story quest, creating instant cognitive dissonance. And if you look at the community reaction, it is clear not everyone disliked the story. Plenty of players enjoyed it, and I'm in that camp too. Not because the writing is peak, but because of how the lightweight and comfortable the experience is. After a long day, sometimes a low pressure pass is exactly what you want. But still, personal comfort isn't a universal standard, and that's where the divide begins. To be fair, several critiques hit valid structure points. The pacing hiccups, the under-leveraged time loop mechanics, reused boss assets, and a bit of continuity friction. As version that sets a narrative prologue for an upcoming version, 2.8 works well enough. It plants flags and introduces a system meant to pay off later. But when evaluated under main story quest expectation framework, you can see why some players walk away unsatisfied. The tonal density simply did not match community internal benchmark for a main story quest drop, which fed into a larger debate. This expectation gap becomes clearer when you look at the previous patches. Wuthering Waves storytelling has been consistently dense and high impact. The final beats of nowlishere arc were delivered with a sharp direction. So by the time 2.7 landed, it calibrated what players think as main story quest should be. Heavy lore, broadcast involvement, and layered narrative threads. But that formula made sense because 2.7 was the climax of a long-running arc. The heavy lifting belonged there. 2.8 operates under a different narrative function entirely. It's a transitional node, an entry point for a new storyline, meant to connect the past context to the future arcs without leaving the patch feeling structurally empty. But because player carried the 2.7 expectation model into 2.8, the lighter tone was misread as a downgrade rather than a reset, which amplified every criticism. And that's where the discourse spiraled. One of example, out of everything in the patch, people fixated on a single moment. Chisa saying, "Senpai."
Thank you, senpai.
One harmless, fully contextual line somehow became a cultural meltdown. Best like it personally owed the community money. Anyone who actually played the quest understands the logical reason behind the term, yet the outrage disproportionately targeted it while ignoring Nami-pon casually using the Gojin-sama. Which actually led to a question: was the issue the word itself, or was Chisa simply the easiest target for people already primed to dislike the patch? because it naturally spilled into discussion about Chisa's gameplay. As a character that clearly designed with next region in mind, I'll say it straight. Her gameplay is genuinely fun. She brings one of the most unusual race reward kits in the roster. With her negative effect buffering mechanics and her massively grouping tool is easily the standout feature. And setting aside the copium of her becoming a future meta unit, the recent announcement about new characters and the new gameplay mechanism basically serve as a soft signal to re-evaluate her potential. And you cannot deny this, Chisa's negative reception did not come purely from her current lack of wide synergy. A good chunk of it was amplified by louder voices in the community rejecting their dislike onto her design, which created an echo chamber that shaped how many players hating on her kit before even testing her. But still, in the end, 2.8 isn't failing, it's shifting. It is the bridge between what WuWa just closed and what they're about to open. And sure, it's not flawless. The pacing wobbles in places, the emotional beats don't hit as hard as 2.7, and some scenes feel like they're saving the real weight for later, which make the whole patch look more controversial than its actual content deserve. At the end of the day, people walk into every patch with their own expectation and threshold. Some people want another lore quake, others just want a lighter breather after work. 2.8 has a rough edges, but it's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. So you can appreciate it for what it is, or you can critique for what it isn't. But what do you think? Let us know in the comment section. So that's all for today. Thanks for watching.